Michael B. Jordan broke up with me all because of Chadwick Boseman. That is why Michael is still unmarried at 39.
Right after that, I went through my very first
public breakup. Now, most people after a breakup are like, I want to get in better shape. But I was already in Creed shape. So I had to be like, all right, I guess I'll learn a new language. Anyway, estoy en raya. After the breakup, everyone thought I was so heartbroken because when the news came out, I was at a basketball game and they caught me looking like this.
When he won the Oscar for Best Actor, I sent him my congratulations, but he did not reply. I can understand. After all, we have been broken up for 4 years.
What if I told you? Michael B. Jordan didn't say a single word and still managed to completely humiliate Lori Harvey on the biggest night of his life? Yeah, you heard that right. No interview. No messy tweet. No I wish her the best PR statement. Just one move. One silent, calculated, savage move. And now the internet is losing it. We're talking viral clips, shady comments, and fans zooming in like FBI agents trying to decode every second of what went down after that Oscar win. Because let's be honest, this didn't feel accidental. This didn't feel random. This felt personal. Was it revenge? A message? Or the cleanest, most disrespectful I've moved on we've ever seen in Hollywood? And here's where it gets even crazier. Some insiders are claiming this wasn't just a moment. It was planned. Yeah, planned. So the question is, did Michael B. Jordan just win an Oscar? Or did he just win the pettiest comeback of the decade? Buckle up. Because this story, it gets messy, fast. Alright, let's get into it. Because before we even talk about that Oscar night, that so-called savage move, and why the internet is acting like it just witnessed a live execution of someone's reputation, we need to rewind. We need to go back to where all of this really started. And no, it didn't start at the Oscars. It started the moment Michael B. Jordan and Lori Harvey went from relationship goals to what just happened. Because let's not rewrite history here. There was a time when these two were everywhere. Perfect photos. Luxury vacations. Coordinated outfits like they had a whole creative team just for date nights. People weren't just watching them. They were invested. And then suddenly, boom, it's over. No detailed explanation. No sit-down interview. Just a quiet confirmation and a loud explosion of speculation. And that's when things started getting interesting. Because the breakup itself wasn't the scandal. It was what came after. See, in Hollywood, silence doesn't stay silent for long. It gets filled. With theories. With narratives. With sources close to the situation who somehow always have just enough information to make things messy but never enough to prove anything. And guess what? That's exactly what happened here. Suddenly, stories started floating around. Some people were saying Michael was too serious. Talking about commitment, marriage, long-term plans. While others were painting Lori as someone who wasn't ready to settle down. Cool. Normal. Happens all the time. But then, the tone shifted. Now it wasn't just they wanted different things. Now it was, something went wrong. And not just wrong. Messy wrong. Because out of nowhere, whispers started getting louder. Allegations. Side comments. Little remarks from people who just happened to be connected. And here's where it gets tricky. No one said anything directly. But everyone said just enough. People started pointing fingers at Michael. Calling him distant. Questioning his loyalty. Even hinting at behavior that, let's just say, didn't match the perfect boyfriend image. And the wild this video. He said nothing. Not a single public defense. Not one let me clear this up. He just disappeared from the conversation. And you already know how the internet works. If you don't speak, they speak for you. Meanwhile, Lori, she didn't exactly jump in to shut anything down either. No strong denials. No, that's not true. Just silence. And that silence. Oh, people read into that heavy. Because now it wasn't just rumors. Now it felt like a story. A narrative. One where Michael was slowly being pushed into the maybe he wasn't the good guy after all category. And the more time passed, the more that narrative started to stick. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Because this wasn't just about the two of them anymore. Now other names started getting pulled into the mix. Family, friends, people who didn't say much, but said enough. You had subtle social media posts that people immediately started decoding like hidden messages. Quotes about growth, posts about lessons, little captions that looked innocent until you connected them to the timing. And suddenly, everyone became a detective. Every post was shade. Every caption was directed. Every silence was confirmation. And somehow, without anyone officially saying anything, a whole storyline had been created. And Michael, he was right in the center of it. Now here's where things take a turn. Because while all of this noise was happening, while his name was being dragged through speculation and side eyes, while people were forming opinions based on literally nothing confirmed, Michael B. Jordan was doing something very different. He was working. No interviews addressing the drama. No social media clapbacks. No tell-all energy. Just projects. Big ones. Back-to-back moves that didn't look like someone distracted by internet gossip. And slowly, very slowly, people started noticing. At first, it was subtle. A role here. A performance there. A directorial move that made people raise an eyebrow. Like, okay, wait. He's leveling up. Then it got louder. More visibility. More respect. More industry attention. And here's the part nobody saw coming. The same people who were once side-eyeing him started switching. Not all at once, but enough to shift the energy. Because now the conversation wasn't just about the breakup anymore. Now it was about progression. Growth. That post-breakup glow-up everyone loves to talk about. And suddenly, the narrative started cracking. People began questioning the old rumors. Wait, was that ever confirmed? Did we just assume all that? Why did he never respond? And the biggest one, what if we got it wrong? Now hold on to that thought. Because this is where the story really starts building. Because everything up to this point, that was just the setup. The tension. The slow burn. Because what happened next? That's what turned this from a messy breakup story into a full-blown internet spectacle. And it all comes down to timing. Perfect, almost cinematic timing. Because just as the dust was starting to settle, just as people were moving on, just as the drama was fading into background noise, Michael B. Jordan stepped into a moment that changed everything. A moment that didn't just elevate his career. It flipped the entire narrative on its head. And whether it was intentional or not, that moment, it's exactly where things start to get very, very loud. And that moment, yeah, that's where everything flips. Because just when people thought this whole situation was fading into old news, Michael B. Jordan stepped into a spotlight so big, so undeniable, that it forced everyone to look back. Not forward. Back. Back at the breakup. Back at the rumors. Back at everything that was said, and everything that wasn't. And suddenly, the same internet that once questioned him, was now watching him like he held all the answers. Now let's talk about that night. The energy was different from the start. You could feel it. The cameras were locked in. The room was watching. And Michael, he didn't walk in like someone chasing validation. He walked in like someone who already knew his moment had arrived. Calm. Collected. Focused. No extra noise. And here's the part people can't stop talking about. Because while everyone expected a speech filled with emotion, gratitude, maybe even a subtle nod to the journey, what they got instead was something much quieter, much more controlled, much more strategic. He thanked the legends, the inspirations, the people who paved the way, names that carried weight, names that meant something. And right there, in that moment, people started noticing something. Or rather, someone missing. No mention of Lori Harvey. Now before you say, well, why would he mention her? That's exactly the point. It's not about what he said. It's about what he didn't. Because in Hollywood, silence isn't empty. It's loud. And the internet. Oh, they heard it clearly. Within minutes, clips started circulating. People zooming in on his expressions. Replaying the speech. Breaking down every pause like it was a coded message. And then the comments started flooding in. This feels intentional. He didn't even acknowledge that chapter. That's not silence, that's closure. But wait, it gets deeper. Because it wasn't just the speech. It was everything around it. The way he carried himself. The way he moved through the night like none of the past drama even existed. No awkward moments. No tension. No signs of someone affected by old headlines. Just confidence. And that confidence. It hit different. Because now people weren't just looking at him as an actor. They were looking at him as someone who outplayed the narrative. And this is where things start getting messy again. Because as Michael's moment got bigger, the conversation around Lori got louder. People started dragging old clips. Old interviews. Old moments that didn't mean much at the time. But now they were being reinterpreted. Reanalyzed. Rewritten. Suddenly, everything was being framed differently. Oh, she didn't support him like that. He was always more invested. The signs were there. And here's the dangerous part. None of this was new information. It was the same old content, just viewed through a new lens. A much harsher one. Now enter the sources. Yeah, those mysterious insiders that always show up right when things get interesting. Because right after that Oscar moment, reports started surfacing. Anonymous claims. People close to the situation saying things that sounded just believable enough to spread. One source allegedly claimed that Lori had always doubted Michael's long-term trajectory. Another suggested that there were conversations behind closed doors that didn't exactly boost his confidence. Now, is any of that confirmed? No. But did it stop people from running with it? Absolutely not. Because by this point, the narrative had already shifted. People weren't asking, is this true? They were asking, does this fit the story? And for a lot of them, it did. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Because while all of this was happening online, while the debates were getting louder, while people were picking sides, Michael, still silent. No reaction. No correction. No acknowledgement. And somehow, that made everything louder. Because the less he said, the more people filled in the blanks. This is calculated. He's letting success speak. He doesn't need to explain anything. And just like that, silence became strategy. Now let's talk about Lori for a second. Because while Michael was having his moment, she wasn't exactly out of the spotlight. Every post, every appearance, every move she made, was suddenly being watched differently. Comments flooded with comparisons. Mentions of Michael everywhere. People connecting dots that may or may not even exist. And the pressure. You could feel it through the screen. Because now it wasn't just about her life. It was about how her life compared to his. And whether that's fair or not. That's where things get complicated. Because on one side, you have people saying, she moved on, that's her right. She doesn't owe anyone anything. And on the other side, you have people saying, look at what he became after her. She underestimated him. Two completely different narratives. Both loud. Both emotional. Both feeding the same story. And right in the middle of it. A moment that no one can stop talking about. Because here's the thing. Michael didn't diss her. He didn't expose her. He didn't even mention her. But somehow, it felt louder than all of that combined. And that's what makes this whole situation so wild. Because usually, when celebrities go through public breakups, there's drama. There's back and forth. There's mess. But this feels different. This feels like a silent chess game. Where one move changed the entire board. Now here's the question everyone's asking. Was this intentional? Was this really a calculated move? Or did the internet just turn a normal moment into something way bigger than it actually is? Because let's be real. That happens too. all the time. But when you look at the timing, the history, the build-up, it's hard not to see why people are connecting the dots. And just when it feels like the conversation can't get any louder, something else starts brewing. More reactions, more speculation, more pressure building behind the scenes. Because this story, it's not slowing down. If anything, it's just getting started. And what's coming next might be the part nobody saw coming. And what's coming next? Yeah, this is where things go from internet chatter to something that feels way bigger than just a breakup story. Because by now, this isn't just about Michael B. Jordan having a major career moment. And it's definitely not just about Lori Harvey moving on with her life. It's about perception. It's about how fast the internet can build someone up, tear them down, and then flip the entire script like none of it ever happened. And right now, the script has completely flipped. Because after that Oscar moment, the reactions didn't just stay online. They started bleeding into everything. Media outlets picking up the story, commentary channels breaking it down, experts suddenly analyzing body language like this was a courtroom case. And the narrative. This was his comeback. He proved everyone wrong. This is what. But here's where it gets messy. Because with every win Michael had, the comparisons got louder. Not subtle. Not respectful. Loud. People started putting timelines side by side. Before the breakup vs after the breakup. During the relationship vs now. Like this was some kind of scoreboard. And guess what? That scoreboard had a winner. At least, according to the internet. Now let's pause right there. Because this is where things start getting a little dangerous. Because while one person is being celebrated, the other is being analyzed. Every move Lori makes, scrutinized. Every post, picked apart. Every appearance, compared. And the comments, relentless. She fumbled. She chose wrong. She didn't see his potential. Now here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Did she actually do anything wrong? Or is this just what happens when one person levels up publicly, and the other becomes part of the story? Because if you strip away all the noise, all the assumptions, all the viral takes, what are we actually left with? A breakup. That's it. No confirmed cheating scandal. No verified betrayal. No solid evidence of anything dramatic. Just two people who went their separate ways. But the internet. Oh, the internet doesn't do simple. It needs layers. It needs villains. It needs a storyline that people can follow, debate, and argue about in the comments. And right now, that storyline is working overtime. Now here's where things take another turn. Because while everyone is focused on what Michael didn't say, some people are starting to look at what he did do. The way he carried himself after the win. The people he surrounded himself with. The energy he gave off. And one detail in particular caught a lot of attention. Because instead of making it about relationships or the past, he made it about legacy, about respect, about the journey. And when he referenced inspirations like Chadwick Boseman, that hit different. Because now the focus shifted again. From drama to purpose. From gossip to growth. And suddenly, the whole revenge narrative started feeling a little off. Because maybe, just maybe, this wasn't about Lori at all. But here's the twist. Even if it wasn't, it didn't matter anymore. Because the internet had already decided what it meant. And once a narrative sticks, it spreads. Fast. Now let's talk about the pressure. Because whether she responds or not, whether she addresses anything or stays silent, Lori Harvey is now in a position where everything she does is connected back to this moment. She posts. Comments mention Michael. She shows up somewhere. People compare. She moves on. The internet brings up the past. And that kind of attention, it doesn't fade easily. Meanwhile, Michael, he's operating in a completely different space now. Bigger opportunities. Stronger positioning. A level of respect that changes how people talk about you. And the contrast. It's loud. too loud to ignore. But again, here's the reality check. Success after a breakup doesn't mean one person lost and the other won. Life doesn't work like that. But social media, it absolutely does. It turns everything into a competition, a storyline, a who came out on top situation. And that's exactly what's happening here. Now here's something even more interesting. Some voices are starting to push back, saying this whole narrative is unfair, that people are projecting, that not everything needs to be turned into a public judgment. And honestly, they're not wrong, because at the end of the day, we still don't know what actually happened between them. We don't know what was said behind closed doors. We don't know what led to the breakup. And we definitely don't know if any of these viral theories are even close to the truth. But that hasn't stopped the conversation. If anything, it's made it stronger. Because the less clarity there is, the more room there is for speculation. And speculation, that's what keeps stories like this alive. Now here's the part that really stands out. Through all of this, through the rumors, the reactions, the constant comparisons, Michael B. Jordan has stayed consistent. No public drama. No messy responses. No attempts to control the narrative. Just movement. And whether that's intentional or not, it's working. Because now people aren't just talking about his past. They're focused on his present. And that shift, that's powerful. Meanwhile, Lori Harvey is still part of the conversation, whether she wants to be or not. And that's what makes this whole situation so complicated. Because it's no longer about what actually happened. It's about how people interpret what happened. And those interpretations, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Because every new move, every new headline, every new appearance, adds another layer to this story, and keeps it alive. So now we're left with the big question. Was this really a savage move? Was it intentional? Or did the internet take a quiet moment and turn it into something way bigger than it was ever meant to be? Because depending on who you ask, you'll get a completely different answer. And that right there, that's why this story isn't ending anytime soon. So now it all comes down to you. After everything you've just seen, all the reactions, all the speculation, all the so-called signs, what do you actually believe? Did Michael B. Jordan really pull off the cleanest, most silent comeback we've seen in a long time? Or did the internet take one powerful moment and turn it into a whole revenge storyline that was never even there to begin with? And what about Lori Harvey? Is she being unfairly dragged into a narrative she never confirmed? Or is this just how the spotlight works when you're constantly in the public eye? Be real. Because this isn't just about them anymore. It's about how fast opinions form, how quickly narratives spread, and how easily people pick sides without knowing the full truth. So I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Whose side are you on? Or do you think this whole situation is being blown way out of proportion? And if you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay locked in. Because stories like this, they're never really over.